In Chapter 3, we're working with the journal. And when we look at this journal, we have 3 special columns and we have 2 general columns. And the general columns truly mean that any account can be put in there. So Alex, can you give me a special account, a special column?
Cash.
Correct. Which one? There's 2 cash columns.
Debit and credit.
So one would be cash debit, right?
Yeah.
Give me another one. Go. Cash credit. Braden, give me another one. I'm sorry, say it again?
Sales credit.
Sales credit. Those are 3 special columns. And again, special column means it has an account heading at the very top of it. The ones that are not special are not special. They're just general. And that's because they don't have an account title on them. Now, yesterday, when we fill out our journal, we move from left to right because that's more important to know that you have to fill it out in that way. You don't go through and put in all of the dates first. That's naughty. Don't be naughty. Do one transaction at a time and complete it out. And you're going to work from left to right. So you'll start with the date. We only put the month on our journal page once. Okay? And then when we get a new month, we would start a new journal page. Every transaction gets a date. And you may have multiple transactions that have the same date. So we may have 3 transactions on April 9th. But each one you'll put the 9th on there. And what you will do is you will make sure that every transaction, you don't need to start filling it out. I'm going to walk you through it. Stay with me. You're going to go through and make sure that your debits and credits are going to equal. You can't have a transaction in a journal where you have a debit, or 2 debits and 2 credits. You need to have a debit and a credit. And yesterday I gave you my hint for your source documents. If your source document is a C, you're going to be affecting what account? Cash as a credit, because they're all C's, right? Now, another hint I'd like to give you is if you have a sales invoice, which column do you think, or which account do you think you're going to be affecting? Sales, right? Because it actually has the word in there. So I like to give a little bit of hints to help you figure out. And we know that typically sales is only going to be credited because we are not going to have customers that are going to return a service that we provided for. Because, again, we're a sole proprietorship organized as a service business. So we're not going to have any sales returns and allowances or anything like that. When we have a transaction that goes on 2 lines, like for this example, line 3 and 4, we need to remember these go on 2 lines because we are not using any special column. Both are going to go in our general columns. We have to put our debit account first, followed by our credit account. So that's a quick review of what we did in 3.1 and 3.2. For our first transaction for today, we have April 12th, paid cash for rent. Kyle, what accounts are being affected? And? Rent expense. Do we have a special column for rent expense? Do we have a special column for cash? So what goes in our account title? Rent expense. Source document is C4, stands for check 4. So therefore, we know cash is being credited for $1,000, and then general debit, or for rent expense, is going to be debited for $1,000. The 13th, receive cash from sales, $2,500, T13. T13, what the heck is that? Don't fill in all of your information. I said it yesterday. Yes. T13. So, this transaction, T13, a source document, stands for cash register tape. Basically, what happens is a business is going to go through at the end of the day and it's going to finalize its sales. That's what I was working with Marcus on, is we're going through and registering all of our sales that we've made through Homecoming, and we needed to make a deposit. So the source document for that transaction would be T, standing for cash register tape, and then 13. And the reason that it's 13 is because that's the date. Okay, so anytime that you see a source document that has a T and a number, it's going to mean that's the cash register tape from that day for our business. So you're not going to have T1, T2, T3, T4. It's not going to be consecutively numbered like our memorandums or our checks. They will jump around depending on the day. So we have received received cash from sales, $2,500. I couldn't remember the wording. What are our two accounts? Sales and cash. Do I have a special column for sales? Do I have a special column for cash? Because I have a special column for sales and a special column for cash, I don't need to put anything in the account title section. But if I leave it blank, it looks like I forgot to do it. Would you agree? So instead of leaving it blank, what we have to do is we have to put a check mark. But okay, we can't, there's no keyboard letter number for a check mark, so we're going to use the letter V. So we're going to put the date of the 13th. My account title, I'm going to put a V for a check mark, meaning I don't have to put any there, but I'm not going to leave it blank. My source document is T13. Now, notice, on this line right here, it gave us something here. Now, this column here is called post reference. We have a whole chapter on this one column. What I need you to know for Chapter 3 today is if you put a check mark in the account title, you always put a check mark in the post reference. That's what I need you to know for Chapter 3. When I get to the point of teaching you about post reference, you'll understand a little bit more. But for today, check mark in the account title means a check mark in the post reference. And then I'm going to go ahead and put that in my two special columns. The 14th, sold services and account to L. Rowe, $510. Dalton, what two accounts are being affected? Sales and? I'm having a hard time hearing you. Accounts receivable, L. Rowe. So do we have a special column for sales? Dalton? So what's going to go in our account title? Yes. And you'll notice that when we do accounts receivable L. Rowe, they abbreviate accounts receivable. Our source document is going to be S1, and S stands for sales invoice. So we have a special column for sales, so I'm going to put that in there for $510. And then we're going to go general debit for $510. So that means accounts receivable L. Rowe is being debited for $510 and sales is being credited for $510. The 19th, paid cash for the electric bill. Evan, what two accounts are being affected? We don't have an electric expense. Utilities expense. Is there a special column for cash? Is there a special column for utilities? So what goes in our account title? Okay. Source document is C5. We're debiting utility expense for $148. Crediting cash for $148. The 20th, received cash and account from L. Rowe. Ellie, what two accounts are being affected? Which one is going to go in the account title? How is it going to be affected? As a debit or as a credit? Yep. Source document is R2, standing for a receipt. So we're going to be crediting accounts receivable L. Rowe because the amount that L. Rowe owes us is going down by $255 and cash is going up by $255. So cash is being debited. 21st, paid cash to owner for personal use. Dylan, what two accounts are going to be affected? I agree with one of them. One you're just a smidge off on. Norm Dermer drawing. Anytime an owner takes out something from the business for his personal use, we have to use the account drawing. The drawing is a contra account to owner's equity that has a classification of withdrawal. So it has a debit normal balance because it takes away from the value of our business. So I'm going to do norm Dermer drawing for C6. So we're going to debit norm Dermer drawing for $1,000. And we're going to credit cash for $1,000. You can check your answers to see how you're doing. So a couple source documents that we use today is a check, cash register tape, sales invoice, and a receipt. Those are our source documents that we've used today. If you want to go ahead and work on your own, please.